Hello, welcome to the channel Style by C. Today's tutorial will be on how to create this beautiful piece. Do subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up. See you in our subsequent tutorial. So first thing first, we're going to be using our half length. Okay, so I'm going to be working with a half length of 16 and a half. Then I'll add extra half an inch, making it 17. Well, I'll suggest you add maybe like 2 inches because this is kind of a corset, underbust corset. Okay, so having done this now, I'll go ahead to mark my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. So I'll mark my 8 inches at that point. Then from there I'll mark 1 inch down, which is my shoulder slope. Okay, then from there I'm going to mark my chest line. To get yours, divide your bust by 6, add 1.5 inches to yours, so you will get your chest line measurement. So mine is 7.5 inches. I'll make a rule across that line. Yeah, then I'll mark 3 inches for my neck width. Then I'll connect it to my shoulder slope as you see me doing. The next thing I'm going to do now is to mark my shoulder measurements at that point, mark it on my chest line, connect them with a rule. Having done this now, the next thing to do is to divide what I have at that point in between by 2. Then I'll come in by half an inch. I'm going to connect it to my shoulder slope. Then from the half an inch, I'll use the curved rule to connect into the chest line. And this is what we have. Okay. The next step to take now is from your shoulder line, you're going to be imputing your bust line measurements, your under bust measurements. My bust line is 10 inches. I'll go ahead to mark it. My under bust is 13 inches. Then I'll make a stretch rule at each point. The next thing I'm going to do is to label my pattern paper. So C is my chest line, B my bust, U my under bust, H my hem or half length. Having done that, now I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple measurement. So mine is 4 inches. I'll mark it on my bust line, my under bust, and at the hem of my dress. Then I'll connect. Sorry, I had to retrace my under bust because it was not straight. Then I'll connect these 3 points together. The next thing I'm going ahead to do now is to mark half an inch on both sides of my dart leg, that is at the half length area. So I'll mark half an inch for my dart intake. Then I'll go ahead to connect it to my bust line this way. Okay. Next step I'm going to go ahead to take now to insert my round body measurements. Alright, so for my bust I have 8.5 inches. That is quarter of my bust measurements. As my under bust I have 7.25 inches. My waistline I have 7.5 inches. I also go ahead and add back this 1 inch I removed that waistline plus stitching allowance if you want to. Then I'll connect that to my under bust. Then from there I'll connect to my chest line. So guys, this is what we have. So from the under bust now I'm going to come up by 1.5 inches, just like you see me doing. I've marked my 1.5 inches. Then on the side I'm going to come down by 1.5 inches. That is the side of my under bust. Came down by 1.5 inches. Then I'll connect the 1 inch to the 1.5 inches using the curved part of my rule. Okay, that is what I'm going ahead to connect now, and this is what I have. We're going to be working on the sleeve area, so I'm going to be inserting extra 9 inches to that shoulder part. That is for my sleeve length. You can decide to use more than 9 inches depending on how long you want your sleeve to be. Okay, please note we are still going to splash and spread this. Okay, so I have 9 inches there. Now I'm going to come down to 1 inch. From that place my 9 inches stops. Then I'll connect it to my shoulder slope at 3 inches. That is my neck width at 3 inches. Okay, now from that point I'm going to be marking about 9 inches. That is for my arm opening, where I'm going to be passing my arm. All right, now for my bust line I'm going to be adding about 3 to 4 inches, but for this I added only 3 inches. Now I'm going to go ahead to mark it. Then from that point now I'm going to connect to the chest line, that is from my arm opening where it stops. Go ahead, use your curved rule to connect to the 3 inches extra you marked. Then from there you're going to connect to your waistline using the curved part of your rule. Please note you can also decide to do free hand, it's totally fine. Okay, so I've gone ahead to connect it, and this is what I have. At this point now I went ahead to measure from my center point pattern paper to my shoulder. I had 17 inches. I'll mark the same thing on my bust line, then connect the 2 points using my rule. Note this is for my arm opening. All right, the next thing to do now is to extend the line we had at the under bust, that's the side under bust, to our seam allowance, the extra we have at that point. So I'll go ahead to mark 1 inch below my under bust, then retrace it to the 1.5 inch I have at the center of my under bust. Then please, the part I marked is not necessary, I'm not working with it again. At this point now I'm going ahead to cut out my piece. Alright, so that is what I'm doing now. Cutting. Okay, so because this is going to actually be a top, that is why I'm cutting from the end of my pattern paper. I'm not cutting from my half length I have, so I'm going to be cutting from the down below. All right, but I made a tutorial to be in case you are making it as a gown, so I'm gonna head to cut it out. The next step now is the neck depth. I'm going to be cutting out the neck depth, so you can decide to leave it as your under chest or before your chest line or at your chest line. So for this I'm leaving it at the chest line. Okay, so I'm going to be using the curved part of this rule again, and I'm going to connect it to my neck width. Reason is because this is a V shaped neckline. That is how the V shaped is. Okay, that's why I use the curved part of this rule, because it served the purpose. So I'll go ahead and cut this out. Then from my 1.5 inch we have, I'll go ahead and also cut out that part. So this is what we have. Yeah, so this for the upper part and this for this. Then I'll close my dart intake. I'll go ahead to close it. So if you have any extra at that upper part, I'll go ahead to trim it off. Now we're going to be working on this upper parts of our bust here, or top actually. So I'm going to be splashing this with 1 inch. So I'm going to mark 1 inch. I have about 10 inches here. Okay, so I'm going to mark 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then I'm going to be marking it, connecting it to the upper of, that's the shoulder area of this pattern paper now. So that is what I'm doing now. So this is the last one. Now you can decide to also splash this other area, that's the left part, which is totally fine. Okay, but I decided not to splash it because I want my sleeve part to be pronounced. That is the end part of my sleeve, so that's why I do not splash it. I don't think it's necessary to splash it. So I'll label my splash with numbers. You can decide to label it any way you can understand. Place an arrow so as you will not be confused after splashing it. So I'll go ahead now to cut it out. So after splashing, I placed it on a folded fabric, okay, because I'm going to be cutting the two fronts together. Alright, so now the next thing to do is 1 inch. I spread this with 1 inch, please note. So the difference between each is 1 inch. Then I'm going to be adding at least about 1 inch to that side, that is the center, for folding. Alright, then I'm going to go ahead to cut it out. Please note that the arm area, that's the arm opening area, please also add maybe about 1 to 1.5 or 2 inches. Though I did not add it to mine, but please do, to avoid shortage. I'll go ahead to cut it out. Then at the curved area now, also do the same thing. That is the part connecting to the arm and the waist. Add your seam allowance, maybe 1 inch is okay. Then cut. So after cutting it, I'll remove my splashed paper, and this is what we have. So we're going to be plating that area. Alright, so it's going to be curved. So this is what we have. Now I'm going to be using my front piece to cut out my back piece, okay, but note that the back is going to be having a zipper allowance, and our back neck depth is going to be normal neck depth because our front is V, unless you want yours to be V. So I'm going to be introducing the pattern paper we cut out earlier at this point. So I place back the pattern paper at this point. Now I'll go ahead to cut it out. So I'm going to go ahead to cut it out. Please mind you also put your zip allowance. About 1.5 inches zip allowance is okay. Alright, so I'm going to just go ahead and trace it out or cut it out, anyone. After marking my zip allowance piece, I went ahead to mark my neck width, which is 3 inches. Then from the up, I'm going to mark 2 inches for my neck depth. Then I'll cut it out. It's going to be just around neck. That is for my back neck depth. Alright. At this point, I'm going to be joining my front shoulder to my back shoulder. I actually reduced my sleeve length because of insufficient fabric, and I'm going to be working with just pins. I'm not sewing. There is no NEPA light, so I can't work at the moment. So that's why I used pin to join them together. So if you're using a sewing machine, go ahead and join your front shoulder to your back shoulder. All right, at this point now I've done joining the two shoulders together. All right, then we're going to be talking on the down parts, that is that under bust area. So you're going to be gathering it. You can either use needle and thread, you can either use your sewing machine to form gathers, or you can decide to pleat. Whichever one works for you is totally fine. Remember, you're also going to do that to your back piece. Okay, so now this is for my center front. Remember I said I'm making my own in terms of a top. Alright, so I decided to add more inches below my fabric. Then I'll go ahead to cut it out. Please mind you, don't forget your seam allowance at the side. So I'll go ahead to cut it out now. I'm going to be using this to cut out my back piece, just that my back piece is going to have a zipper allowance by the side. Okay, so please don't forget your zipper allowance, just the same pattern, nothing to. At this point now, I've gone ahead to drape my upper part on my mannequin, on my dress form. Then I'm joining the lower part of this dress to it. Okay, so that is how you're going to do your own. If you are sewing, after gathering it, go ahead and join it to the down parts of your piece. Okay, so this is me doing my own. Please remember, I said I'm not sewing, I'm just using pin to join them together. Yeah, so go ahead and sew your own. Don't forget to fold the down parts of your piece if you are using a crepe material or whatever. But if you are using Ankara, I think it's more preferable to turn it out with a lining piece. This right now, I'm still pinning it down, and this is what it's looking like. It's giving that sweet shape, yeah. And please don't forget, this is the same procedure you also use for your back pieces. Just the same way I did this one, that's the same way I did for my back piece. Thank you so much for watching. Do share, subscribe, and don't forget to give us a thumbs up.